Hello and welcome to Igniting American Manufacturing. I'm Brian Sexton, joined by Rory Comiskey from FusionIRX, and this is the first in a series of shows about American manufacturing. And what is it that has you here today? Why are we doing this show?
Igniting American manufacturing, it's twofold. There's a bunch of things going on in manufacturing. And they talk about cycles of innovation. We're in a cycle of innovation right now.
Right.
That's unprecedented. A tremendous amount of growth, particularly in the high-tech sector, but most sectors. Semiconductor is iterating. It's always been iterating, but it's still iterating now and evolving, and a ton of innovation there and a lot of need. We have the nanoscent, the very nanoscent EV ecosystem, where it goes to EV batteries. And everything that goes with it, from battery manufacturing to automotive to processing the minerals and recycling, which is a big part of it, recycling. And then you have the global data sphere, and there's this misnomer that everything lives in the cloud. Well, it doesn't. It lives in a data center, and we have to build them. And every time, you take a picture on Instagram, and there's about 1 million of those a minute, it goes to a server somewhere. And to exacerbate that growth, that exponential growth, AI is throwing fuel on this fire. So there's this exponential need to increase manufacturing worldwide, but particularly in the United States. The United States historically was the leader in manufacturing. We lost that moniker, about 25 years ago to China. We're the #2 manufacturer. With that went about 7.5 million jobs in the past 40 plus years.
That's a staggering number.
Yep. 7.5 million. 90,000 manufacturing facilities have closed in that time frame, and that's an approximation. Since NAFTA or any of the free trade agreements, we've seen 5 million. That's since the 90s. 5 million jobs leave this country. It's impacted our middle class, exponentially. It's been devastating to the middle class. So with this growth, there's an opportunity right now. There's an opportunity to reshore manufacturing and bring it back to the United States and reinvigorate our middle class.
You work worldwide. You have seen it from so many different perspectives. What's the first thing that we have to do if we're going to bring it back? If we're going to, as you said, reshore it, you're leading the charge. What's the first step?
That's a tough one because there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of first steps. First step is we have to commit to do it.
Okay. Who's we? You and me, the American government, the American Manufacturers Association. Who has to be on board?
Manufacturers.
Okay.
The government.
Okay.
We need government involvement.
Right.
We need academia involvement, and we need people, and that's part of we want to communicate here. We need people to let their local politicians know that we need manufacturing.
Right.
We really, really need it. I write about it quite a bit. I've written a lot of articles. If you want to sum it up, when America was in its age of exceptionalism, we were the behemoth of manufacturing, and our middle class flourished. And that middle class took their money and they put it back into the economy, and the economy flourished, and all of America flourished. We pulled everybody up. That isn't the case today. So if we want a strong America, if we want a healthy America, we need a healthy middle class.
Right.
And the middle class needs manufacturing and manufacturing jobs.
We're too dependent on the service sector right now in this country, too one-sided.
It was a conscious effort, about 40 years ago, and a lot of the economists, Ivy League economists at that, and among others, that actually, said the natural evolution of Americans was to stop working with their hands and to get into service-oriented business. And there was a lot of promises made, and that haven't materialized. Some people, got those six-figure jobs or better, but a lot of people wound up working cash registers and service jobs and waitress jobs that just didn't pay.
Right.
So, our middle class today has shrunk, and a lot of those people have dropped off into lower income. and the health of the middle class, the people who are in the middle class, don't have the spending dollars that they had years ago. So, yeah, we need those high-paying manufacturing jobs that historically have been high-paying, with good benefits. We need that.
So what has to happen first? Or maybe they happen simultaneously, Rory. Do we have to have the workers here to attract the companies, or do the companies have to come here to attract the workers?
Well, that's a loaded question. We do need the workers.
My best.
We do need the workers. We don't have them, and there's a good reason for that. I'll get to that in a second. The manufacturers are going to have to do the heavy lifting and training. There's some efforts right now through some initiatives, the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act and the Science Act. They're working with academia to bring, some training into schools from micro certifications, nano degrees, and degrees specific to manufacturing. And there's some universities that are actually leading the way in that. I would say Purdue University is really, championing that. ASU is doing a good job. UT has just come on board, and a lot of the universities are doing that, and a lot of the community colleges are. So going back, there's a stigma to vocational training in this country, and it's about 50 years in the making, and we need to get over that.
Right.
Working with your hands is a worthwhile job.
Yeah. It's an honorable, noble job.
It's an honorable, noble job, and we've put such an emphasis on the traditional 4-year degree. We've gotten away from that. So here we have manufacturing come back. We don't have the technicians. We actually, engineering degrees are in demand as well, people with engineering degrees. We need to get back to that. We need to have vocational training. We need to bolster our apprenticeship programs and some of the nano certifications and nano degrees or micro certifications are helping with that. But a lot of effort needs to be done on the government's part, on academia. But right now, the majority of the heavy lifting in that arena is on the manufacturers themselves. And they know that.
Right.
They know that.
It sounds like it's a really heavy lift. How many workers are we talking about? I mean, in order to get this where you want to go, how many do we need?
Well, there's a ton of surveys out there. I can tell you there's a survey out there that says we have a 3.5 million deficit in actual workers in the United States by 2030.
So there's going to be 3.5 million opportunities by the year 2030.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's other surveys that will give you different numbers, but they're pretty. That's a pretty good approximation. Yeah.
Can we get there? Can we get close?
We're going to struggle. I think we're going to get it close.
Okay.
And we're going to have to figure it out. It's boots on the ground time. It's let's get going. We got off to a late start.
Right.
But we're up and running now. Like I said, Purdue is doing some pretty cool stuff. They've set a benchmark for other universities, and ASU's following suit. So we're up and running. We're starting. The momentum is heading in the right direction. Is it at the speed and pace we need? Not yet. A lot of work to do there.
You build high-tech factories. You build chip plants and battery plants. Are those the ones that you need the workers for first?
Well, so the tech sector is, you're right, it's some very unique skills, some high-level skills, and they're probably, the deficits there are greater than they are. Training someone to be a carpenter is a challenge. Training someone to put in a bulk gas system where life depends on it and there's safety issues is even a degree higher.
Right.
So there's a lot more training in that. So the tech sector has some unique challenges, and they're addressing those in-house. Tesla has an exemplary program. They built labs in some high schools for robotics and automation, and they're involved in STEM. They're a company that actually has made some great efforts. They're taking that program from Nevada, and now they have a plant down in Austin area, Texas, and they're starting to do that, at the community college level over there. They're a company that actually has set a benchmark for heavy lift on the manufacturing side. It took them a while to get it up and running. They're starting to see some ROI on that.
Right.
They're seeing kids come out of high school and doing internships with them. So they're reaping some benefits there. So manufacturers have to do the lifting, and I'd say Tesla's probably one of the ones that is exemplary in that means.
Where are the plants being built? Where are the hot segments of our country? Is it on the East Coast, the West Coast, North, South? Where are we seeing growth?
So, and you and I have talked about tech hubs.
Yeah.
And, the current administration is pushing tech hubs. They've existed for a long time. Some of them grown organically. Some are being aided by some of the CHIP Act money and the Inflation Reduction Act. But we have some tech hubs. Historically, Phoenix, Arizona has been a tech hub, particularly with a 40-year presence of Intel.
Right.
TSMC recently committed to build several factories there. On the East Coast, and I'd say, from Kentucky down to, unfortunately, I hope it's Florida someday, to the Georgia border is being referred to as the EV battery belt, the battery belt.
Well, that sounds really promising.
Ton of growth there.
Right.
Georgia has probably more plants going in right now, being built, than any other state. Matter of fact, I know for a fact they do. They have more plants being built in Georgia than any other state in the union. South Carolina and North Carolina are getting into the mix. You have Q-Cells doing solar up in near the Atlanta area. AESC, they're a Chinese firm, but they're investing here in the United States, building 4 plants from Bowling Green, Florence, South Carolina. You have LG up in the Savannah area and Hitachi. So the EV sector is really hot. Upstate New York, you have Global Foundries. Micron is just committed to do 4 factories, somewhere between $80 to $100 billion in the next 10 years. They'll be breaking ground shortly. You have another tech sector up in Oregon. Again, that's led by Intel and the semiconductor industry. So we have these tech centers peppered over.
Right.
The one I'm most excited about right now, and I think needs it more than anything, the heartland, the Rust Belt, Ohio, Purdue University we talked about. Intel is committed to do several factories there. I think there, and I could be wrong here, several factories up to $100 billion. I'm not quite sure about that number there. But it's a significant amount.
Yeah.
And piggybacking that, there's some other companies going there now because of Purdue's efforts and workforce. So Heartland America, Steel Belt to Rust Belt, they need some help there. And I'm really glad to see Ohio starting to develop as a tech hub.
So you're talking about a large swath of the country, right? Mm-hmm. With a lot of money. You said $80 to $100 billion 2 or 3 different times in your last answer. So the opportunity exists for young people to create a career in high tech, which is the future. Sounds to me, I'm just assuming that these are going to be high paying jobs.
Oh, yes. Hands down. Very good high paying jobs. Engineering jobs, technician jobs, 6 figures or plus, maybe just a little less to start with. But no, they're viable careers. You can feed your family and own a home and have that American dream.
Right.
Sure.
And we're talking not just college degrees. We're talking kids coming out of high school that get trained, can get into that track and go. That will, you don't have to be an economist to see how that will reignite the American economy.
CHIP Act is putting $52 billion into semiconductor.
Okay.
The manufacturers are chipping in their own to the tune of $375 million total. That's the semiconductor industry right now that's earmarked right now, and that number is going to grow. So, yes, there's a ton of opportunity. We need to reinvigorate and ignite American manufacturing. We need to reinvigorate vocational training.
Okay.
We really do.
So, besides doing this show and building high-tech factories, what are you doing on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis to get that started? Who's helping you? How do we get this thing going?
There's a lot of people helping.
Okay.
There's some foundations. Like I said, academia is going. BattleBots.
The show on Discovery.
They support STEM and they have a foundation work along that. Amelia Goulding is a good friend of mine. She does a lot of work over there. She worked with Tesla on their program as well. She's definitely, she was up in the Pentagon talking about workforce development. The DoD is getting it in, because of security, cybersecurity, and digital sovereignty. The DoD is actually funding and working on vocational training and workforce development as well, which is, that took it was a stretch for me, but I actually saw that connection, the security portion of it.
Well, and we're 40,000 recruits shy in the military these days. They're probably looking for high-tech people to come in and run their missile systems and all of their high-tech stuff.
Well, the funny thing is, I work with a lot of veterans
Okay.
and a lot of veteran organizations, and I can tell you those aviation technicians and those folks in the Navy nuke, when they were leaving the services,
Right.
I'm really looking at hiring
You're
them.
interested in that.
Yeah, sure. Their skills, and that's one thing we can do with workforce development. Our folks leaving the military, they have some good skills. With a little upskilling, a lot of those skills transfer. So that's another resource, and that's a resource that I really work on. First of all, they have great discipline coming out of it, and they've been trained. So if I could take advantage of that, as an owner of a company, it's a good thing. It's also a good thing for people that want to, transfer and segue to another portion of their life after their military career. So,
Well, I mean, it sounds like this is something that Washington's going to have to be intimately involved into. Going to have buy-in from Congress, from the different bureaus and departments. It sounds like, can we get everybody on the same page? Do you need everybody on the same page?
oh, we most definitely need everybody on the
Okay.
same page. Can we? And I don't want to get too political here. I voted for the other guy,
Right.
but I can say this administration is making great strides. The CHIP Act is definitely a success. Pat Gaislinger with Intel said he anticipates a CHIP Act 2. I think it's a good thing. The Inflation Reduction Act has helped. The government's been working with academia. I think they're making great efforts, but it is bipartisan. There's a lot of folks that have crossed the aisle and said this is a good thing. If I'm a senator and I'm a Republican senator and someone's going to bring a factory to my neighborhood, I'm probably on board with it.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing for my constituencies. So it's been pretty partisan. And like I said, I'm voting for the other guy.
Right.
I'll say that. But I like what the administration's done along those lines. Can't argue with success.
All right. Well, then let's wrap this up with telling people what we're going to talk about on this show. What sorts of things are important for them to know? I know we've talked about a ton of guests. There is no shortage of people who are out there doing things. What are 2 or 3 of the things that we were going to cover in the next month?
Well, I could talk about this stuff all day long, but I get tired of listening to myself. I think we need to bring people in and talk about causation,
Okay.
how we got here. I don't want to focus a lot on that. We need to talk about causation in that we need to not repeat it.
Sure.
Right? We need to talk about tangible solutions.
Okay.
With workforce. And we need to talk about site selection and communities. And we need to talk about doing this right.
Right.
So there's a couple of things, I talk a lot about smart manufacturing, talk a lot about ESG. We have an opportunity to build better factories that are better neighbors to their local community and better neighbors to their global community. We can have both.
Right.
And your CapEx and your operating X, what it costs to build it and to operate it, if you do it right, will actually go down. And I can prove that. And I spent a lot of time proving that. So we have an opportunity to build better. I'd like to bring some folks in that can actually elaborate on that. The workforce development, definitely get some people in here to talk about that. So I'm excited about doing this. I know a lot of people are a lot brighter than me that can then elaborate at length on it.
I know a lot of people that are in that category with me too. But let's end on this. We talked before the show about the greatest economic boom in world history was post-World War II. Can this be that?
Well, so you're right. At the end of World War II, we were 50% of the world's manufacturing and a greater proportion of the wealth. And it was called the economic miracle, what happened to us afterwards. And we started, that's when globalization started. We were manufacturing and we were selling to the world. And that went away. We offshored. China picked up the mantle, by the way, and actually exceeded what we did. But can we do it? Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Do we have to? I think we really do. If this country is going to be, I'm a son of immigrants.
Right.
I believe in the American dream. I believe the American dream has been diminished. I believe it can come back. And I believe manufacturing, a balanced manufacturing and service economy in balance and in sync will lead to a healthy America. A lot of the bipartisan stuff goes away when people are got money in their pocket and a roof over their head.
Yeah. When they all believe in the promise of America.
Yeah.
Well, what do they say? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with just one step?
Yes.
Here's step 1. Rory Comiskey.
right.
Looking forward to the next episode.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Thanks for joining us for the first episode of Igniting American Manufacturing. We'll see you next time.
FusionIRX is an iteration of firms I've worked with over the years. And I think we've taken the best pieces of the different firms I worked in and pulled it together. We're subject matter experts at the end of the day. So we work in high-tech manufacturing. We are open to looking at other things, but we kind of really stick to semiconductor, where my roots are. It's where I originally came from. The EV ecosystem, whether it's battery manufacturing, auto, recycling, mineral processing. And then finally, the global data sphere, so building data centers. That's not really manufacturing, but then again, it kind of is. We're good at what we do, and we have a lot of passion about it, and we can help you.